Hey guys, thanks for stopping by the channel. I'm just out here hiking in the Canadian winter wilderness, and it actually got me thinking about what type of timepieces I like to take on these kind of excursions. I think one that's often overlooked is the Canadian brand Marathon that make very robust mil-spec timepieces and two very popular search and rescue dive watches. I actually have one on the wrist. This is known as their JSAR, or the Jumbo Search and Rescue. Wears quite comfortably on my 7.5-inch wrist size. But I actually also own a GSAR, which is their government search and rescue. It's the smaller iteration for this particular watch, and I have the Arctic Maple Edition. Now, what's interesting is I think a lot of us watch enthusiasts tend to overanalyze the spec sheet when trying to make a purchase, but I find both of these watches wear smaller than their dimensions would suggest. So why don't we actually flip perspectives now, and we'll take a close-up look at both watches in the studio. So now that we're in the studio, we can take a closer look at both the JSAR and the GSAR from Marathon. Now, looking at these watches side by side, you can see clearly that there is a sizing difference, but they share a lot of the same design DNA when you're looking at a search and rescue diver. And I do think both of these watches can coexist in the same collection because I like them for different reasons, which I'll get into individually in a second, but let's go over some of the common characteristics of both timepieces. So both of these watches are made from brushed 316L stainless steel on the case and the supplied bracelets. Taking a look at the dial, you can see both utilize 24-hour military time that's shown slightly more inboard of the applied hour markers on the dial. Both of these watches also have an offset date aperture on the dial that's nestled between the 4 and 5 o'clock position, and they're nicely color matched to the color of a dial, which I really enjoy. Both of these watches have extremely aggressive and large bezels that do overhang the case ever so slightly, so this allows the watch to wear and look a little bit smaller than the dimensions would suggest. They also have really nice knurled screw-down crowns, helping afford both these watches with 300 meters of water resistance. But in terms of differences, let's start by talking about the larger of the two, which is the Jumbo Search and Rescue watch. The first thing I want to mention as a complete package is when you buy the JSAR, it comes in this very nicely made tactical case from Marathon that is dust proof. It is waterproof as well and shock resistant. And I think this is a really nice value add if you do travel with your watches a lot. Unfortunately, you won't get this with the GSAR, which just comes in like a tin ammo style can, and it's fairly small. Now, in terms of pricing, this is the more affordable of the two options, surprisingly, even though you are getting the added tactical case and a much larger watch. Retail on this is 2,380 Canadian dollars when you have it supplied on the OEM bracelet. It is more affordable with the 3-piece rubber strap, and I do want to caution you guys that there's frequent sales from Marathon on these watches, and if you're looking for a better price, the secondary market, these guys unfortunately take a hit. So don't pay retail. You're getting a lot of watch for the money if you buy it right. Now, in terms of case dimensions, this is a 46 millimeter wide bezel, so from this end of the bezel to the other. Flipping the watch over to the side, lug-to-lug distance between my thumbs is 55 millimeters. They do have nice drilled lug holes on all of their cases to help swap out the bracelet if you want. Overall thickness is 17.5 millimeters from the bottom of the case back, which you can see they have etched in all the mil-spec information, and then to the top of a very thick sapphire crystal. Now, between the lugs is 22 millimeters, and the bracelet tapers down to about 20 when you hit the Marathon signed clasp. You can see you have a stamped maple leaf. You can actually purchase this watch with different engravings. For example, you can buy the US government engraving instead. And then it's just a standard flip over security latch, and it's a friction fitted kind of pressed out clasp. Not my favorite, but it keeps it low in profile. Oh, I should also mention there's also a diver's extension that's also fairly pressed out. And here's a quick in-studio wrist shot. Just to show you how this watch would wear on about a 7.5-inch wrist size. Looking down the barrel, you can see that it does have wrist presence and some thickness to it, but it stays firmly planted on the wrist. And this bracelet does a good job counterbalancing the weight of the watch head, which on its own is like over 150 grams. And then when you include this bracelet sized up, it's 219 grams. Now, some other differences to consider when you're buying the Jumbo Search and Rescue here is this particular one utilizes a high torque quartz movement in the ETA F07. I think they need to use high torque here because the hands are huge, so you need that to help drive the seconds hand and also to keep the minute and hour hand aligned with the chaptering really well. And personally, I like the movement. It's a 3-jewel movement, very accurate. I think the battery life is around 3 years before you have to swap it out. I also just really like how large the applied hour markers are, and the handset is a lot broader than you're going to find on the GSAR. Now, another noticeable difference is with the luminescence on this particular watch. They're using Mariglow, which is Marathon's own superluminova formulation. And it's not the most intense you're going to find, but it's extremely long lasting. You can read this watch throughout the night, and it's a potent application. They even use an orange colored lume at the 12 o'clock to aid in orientation. So overall, I really like this watch. When you're looking for a comprehensive search and rescue diver, it's easily probably the most legible watch that I have. And let's quickly listen to the bezel action before moving on to the Artic Maple. You can see very audible but satisfying clicks. It's unidirectional with 120 click action on it. Again, you can see how aggressive and easy to grip the bezel is. Some folks will comment that they don't always find that the alignment between the bezel and the chapter ring is spot on, but I think a lot of that is a parallax effect because the crystal is so thick and the distance from the bezel triangle to the actual dial is a fairly large gap, so you might get some distortion, but rest assured, I do think it has good alignment. Okay, let's swap over to the Artic Maple GSAR. MSRP for this particular watch on the bracelet comes in at 2,940 Canadian dollars. Again, you can get that for a better price if you look on their website for some deals or on the secondary market. Now, why is this watch more expensive, you might be wondering? Well, I think for one reason is that this guy is utilizing a Swiss Sellita SW200 automatic movement. So this is a fairly robust workhorse movement with 26 joules, about a 40-hour power reserve. You do have hacking and hand winding on this watch, and it ticks away at 4 hertz. The other distinction between this watch in terms of luminescence is instead of using Mariglow on the dial, they're using tritium gas tubes. So you can see the applied hour markers as well as the individual hands house tritium tubes, and they're self-activating, so you don't need an external light source. These will continually glow for about 10 to 12 years, they say, and then at that point you're going to have to service it from Marathon. They'll swap it out on the dial. Now, in terms of dimensions for this particular watch, it is more compact, 41 millimeters across the bezel here. Flipping the watch to the side, lug-to-lug wingspan is 48 millimeters. Thickness is only 13.5 millimeters, so that's 4 millimeters thinner than the Jumbo. And again, case back does have some nice engraving on it, flat sapphire crystal on the top, and between the lugs is more narrow, so it's 20 millimeters this time, with a bracelet taper to 18 millimeters. Because I don't like the Marathon clasp as much, I just swapped it out for this more generic stainless steel one, but it has a twin trigger release and a nice milled out swing arm that's here. And here's a quick in-studio wrist shot of the Artic Maple GSAR on my 7.5-inch wrist. Again, you can see definitely more compact and lightweight. The watch head, including the bracelet size to my wrist, only weighs in at 176 grams. But of course, both of these watches look very good on different straps if you want something even lighter. In terms of the bezel on this particular one, it's the same as the Jumbo with respect to being fully graduated from 0 to 60. Similar aggressive coin edging on it. Let's listen to the action on this bezel. So I will say it's not as audible, and it's slightly easier to turn as well. But again, very good bezel action, no backplay once it's settled in whatsoever. So this is my overview of both the jumbo and the standard search and rescue divers from Marathon. I really hope that this might inform you if you're in a similar position to me and you really just wanted to buy one. I actually own both, and I think they can coexist in my collection because I like them for different reasons. I like the Arctic Maple GSAR because I really like the maple leaf and the pops of red color on it, and it is more compact, making it a really good daily driver. But on the other hand, I really like the jumbo because when I think more comprehensively of what a search and rescue watch should be like, this one is just extremely legible. It's also more affordable and comes with a nice tactical case to boot. But as always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these particular divers from Marathon. And if you do enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It really does help me out. And as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.